to the cloud. So again, course content, unit 1. At the bottom there, once I say make available, it'll be available. 2 files, but one of them, I just got in the habit of doing the document and the PDF version. A little something for everyone, right? So if you're a pencil paper type of person, although a nice little typo there for somebody, right? But yeah, assignment 3, not whatever that says. The Logic Doc or a Logic PDF, it's the same thing. All right, I'll click on the PDF, but I left the doc there so that you can pull that down and edit it as needed. But there's 2 parts. All right, you'll see. We have the second part is a little bit more involved. All right, but the first part, let's put it this way: the first part looks like it's more involved, but the second part is actually more involved. All right. So you're going to go to logicpuzzlebaron.com. Right, it's a strange name for a site, but yeah, it's better than my site on Logic, which doesn't exist. So there you go. You don't need to make an account. You can see that by where it says you don't need to make an account. Very important. I will never ask you to make an account unless it's for anything, unless it's absolutely necessary. All right. And when I went through this process myself, I found that it was not absolutely necessary. It wasn't even remotely necessary, so I didn't do it. All right, but you go to Logic Puzzle Baron, logic.puzzlebaron.com, start a new puzzle. You're going to do a 3x5 grid, set it to easy, because believe it or not, easy is still pretty challenging. Although some people have the brain for this. And that's not to say that they're any more intelligent or we're any less intelligent. It's just some people's minds are geared in a more logical sense and some aren't. Everybody's got different intelligences. All right. So when you're ready, you get started on the puzzle. To receive credit, and this is very important, you take a screenshot of your solved puzzle and achievement, then submit your images on Blackboard by either converting to a PDF or pasting into a Word document and uploading. It all depends on how you do part 2, 3, and part 2, which has 3 parts to it. All right. So if you're doing the second part of this assignment by hand, then what I would recommend is to take pictures of your part 1. And then take pictures of your part 2, put it all in the same Word document. Or I know some people like Cam Scanner and stuff like that. Whatever works, but Blackboard only accepts certain types of files, so just be mindful of that. What a lot of other folks will do is create a Google Doc, or I forget what they call it now, but the Office Online. So you use Word Online. Create a link and submit that. That's fine too. The one thing that you got to be mindful of is just with the due date, because I've had people, not to say anybody here is going to do it, but there's always somebody who tries to pull a fast one, submit it after the due date, by submitting the link before the due date, even though they're not finished. So they do a Google Doc, they submit a link that doesn't have anything in it, hoping that I don't notice it, and then just add stuff in after the fact. Right? Same thing with tests and quizzes and stuff like that. I'm probably not the tech savviest person in the world, but I'm like top 5. So yeah, I mean, I'll check the revision dates on all that stuff. So don't do that. Right. So make sure, if you're going to go that route, make sure you get it all in by the due date. So anyway, logicpuzzlebaron.com, you click on it. It brings you to this really busy looking website. It says competition timer. Honestly, I don't know what happens when the competition timer expires, but the due date is less than 19 days from now anyway, so it doesn't matter. basically, my sense is they have competitions, and it's just like if you play any games on your phone. Like I'm a big Supercell guy. I play all the Clash stuff, but they have seasons, so they just reset and start a new competition. Right? They do say that you can register now for free, but we all know what that is. Right? So I would recommend having a quick look at this page. You don't have to peruse it in great detail. Just have a quick look if you're not familiar with these types of puzzles. These are logic puzzles, which are really cool. They're all logical connective based. So propositional logic, if then, and, or, things like that. But the thing is, it's more intuitive. So yeah, it's a more visual type of logic. So you don't really have to, it's not like you're going to make a truth table for any of this stuff. Right? It's just a way for you to kind of flex your logic muscle without having to do it in the rote way that I was showing you earlier. So it's a different way of evaluating the truth of that particular scenario. So you start a new puzzle, 3 by 5, easy. Get ready to solve. So I guess that means like sharpen your pencils and stretch or something. No, it's all online. So it brings you to a fresh puzzle with all the different clues on the side. All right. So you'll get full credit if you complete the puzzle, right, correctly. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. Right. So if you take like 10 hours to do it, honestly, I've never got timed out on this. So I don't know if there's a maximum time, but I was pretty slow. You can, if you go back to the assignment itself and look pretty closely here. I'll just do a quick, oh, wrong way. It took me 394 seconds to complete this puzzle. It says congratulations and stuff like that, which is, I like stuff like that. Makes you feel good. But in this area here where it says congratulations, if you select the hint, then it'll make a note of that. Right? So you don't want to hit the hint function because it's not gonna you're not gonna get full credit for the assignment. All right. So even if it takes you a long time, you see, I'm slow. It says right here in the normal curve, I'm slow. The people who did it in 35 seconds or so were like average was about 149 seconds. Well, they say median. So the median time was 149 seconds. So it's like 2 to 3 minutes. I took a lot longer than that. All right, but I was very careful, and honestly, if I was doing it, I kind of treated it like I was doing it for a grade myself. I didn't want to rush it. I don't want to get something wrong. So yeah, you got to take all the time that you need. Just don't hit that hint button. All right. But yeah, you go through the clues. So you see here, like GoFro.com didn't get exactly $1 million. So you look at, you start, give yourself a little context here. You have startups, founders, so the founder of the startup, and the investments that they made, right, or earned, like if they had investors. It all depends. All right. So GoFro.com didn't get exactly $1 million. So I'd go to GoFro and click on it once because that didn't happen. All right. The startup started by Betty Becker received $1 million more than Proteca.com. All right. So that's where it starts getting weird, because this is where our knowledge of logic comes into play, but we still don't need to make a truth table or anything like that. All right. Because you just use, you might call it common sense. I call it logic. All right. So startup started by Betty Becker received $1 million more than Proteca. So I look at that and say, all right, $1 million more than someone, that's fine. More than somebody, right? Which means that Betty Becker did not receive the least amount of money, because Betty Becker received 1 million more than somebody else. That doesn't mean Betty Becker received the most amount of money, but definitely didn't receive the least amount of money, right? So I would eliminate the lowest amount of money, which would be $1 million. Now it says in this case, it's a coincidence that the lowest amount happens to be the 1 million that they're mentioning here, but you know, sometimes that happens, right? But we also know that if Proteca earned less than Betty Becker, right, that means that there is somebody out there that earned more than Proteca, which means Proteca could not have earned the most amount of money because somebody out there earned more. Zetafish received 5 million. That's flat out fact. So click it once to bring up an X, click it twice to bring up a green dot, which is, you know, so X means no or false. Green means yes or true, right? So we see here, this is propositional because it's only true or false, right? There's no gray area. The business started by Vicky Velez, apologies, received $3 million more than the business started by Patty Padilla, right? So again, it's not so much the 3 million as much as it's more than. So that means Vicky Velez could not have earned the least amount of money because she earned more than somebody, right? Now, when you get it, we might have to come back to that 3 million part of it in a minute, because it's like, well, we have a set interval of values here from 1 million to 5 million. So let's say, for example, that we knew that Pat Padilla earned 2 million. Then we would know that Vicky Velez had 5 million, because Vicky Velez has 3 million more than Pat Padilla. You know, so those are some things that we'll keep in mind. Atriana.com received 3 million. So Atriana.com received 3 million. That's a double click. All right. So we're doing some process of elimination, but we're also given some facts. The 5 businesses are the startup started by Laura Larson, the business that received 5 million. So I'll stop right there. The startup started by Laura Larson, the business that received the 5 million. So that's telling me that Laura Larson cannot be the business that received 5 million, because they're distinguishing between those two businesses, right? So Laura Larson did not get 5 million. Atriana.com, so we know Atriana.com also didn't get 5 million, right? But we don't really care about that because we already know that Atriana.com got 3 million because they said it right here, right? The startup that received 1 million, all right? So Laura Larson didn't receive 1 million, didn't receive 5 million, right? And also Laura Larson is not associated with Atriana.com, right? And the company that received 4 million, right? So Laura Larson, the 5 million investment, Atriana, the startup that received 1 million, and the startup that received 4 million are all different startups. All right. So Laura Larson did not receive 4 million. Right. Atriana.com did not receive 4 million, but we didn't really care about it. Right. So we may want to go back to the whole like so and so got more than, 1 million more, 3 million more, but we'll go back to that in a minute. We'll just go right down to number 7. Zetafish.com is either the business started by Betty Becker or the startup that received 1 million in investment. All right. So Zetafish, where are you, Zetafish? Is either, now this is a tricky thing, because this actually kind of goes counter to what we were talking about before with the or, right? Because the disjunction is true as long as both parts aren't false. But in this case, it's making it a choice, right? And that's the use of the either part, right? So if I say that I am either doing this or that, that's a choice. But if I say the shoes are red or blue, so it's a subtle difference, but one implies a choice, right? So Zetafish is either the business started by Betty Becker or the startup that received 1 million. Now, over here, we determined that Zetafish received 5 million. So Zetafish cannot be the one that received 1 million. It must be the startup associated with Betty Becker. Right? So we have another conclusion. And so we keep going with that process until we solve the puzzle. Right? But now we're kind of closing in on some things. You see how we have madinks.com is, well, basically the 1 million is going to be either Madinks or Proteca, right? So if we can narrow that down, then we can start cleaning some things up, right? But we also know that the 1 million is either Pat Padilla or Will Waters, right? Now, in none of the clues do we have any information about Madinks or Will Waters, at least not directly, right? So I go back to my first clue. So I always do this, the way I handle it is I always cycle my way through the clues the first time, get what I think are the obvious things, and then I go from there, right? And so going from there means cycle through the clues again, right? So GoFro.com didn't get exactly 1 million, right? That, I don't feel like that's helpful, right? We already addressed that. They didn't get 1 million, but so did a lot of other companies not get. The startup started by Betty Becker, right, which is Zetafish. We now know that that's Zetafish. Received 1 million more than Proteca. So we want to see if we could do something with that, right? So it could be the case that Betty Becker's Zetafish earned 2 million while Proteca earned 1. That would satisfy it, right? The other possibility is that Betty Becker's company earned 3 million while Proteca earned 2 million. So Betty Becker's Zetafish earned 3 million while Proteca earned 2. Or, now here's the other thing. We get to this other possibility. Well, maybe we think Betty Becker earned 4 million, right? Now the startup started by Betty Becker received 1 million more than Proteca. Fact. All right. So if I say that Betty Becker's Zetafish company earned 4 million, then that must mean that Proteca earned 3 million. But right here, I'm saying Proteca could not have earned 3 million. Right. So that means that Betty Becker could not have earned 4 million. Right. So I call it a mini conclusion. Right. But I call a lot of things a lot of things. So it is what it is. But it's not like the domino that's going to solve everything, but it's a step in the right direction. Right. So then I would look at it and say, all right, well, what if Betty Becker earned 5 million? Could Proteca have earned 4 million? According to this, yes. All right. So then I move on. So clues 1 and 3 don't really add anything to the conversation anymore because we've already addressed that. The business started by Vicky Velez received 3 million more than the business started by Pat Padilla. All right. So Vicky Velez, Pat Padilla, not really a whole heck of a lot of information there. until we can tie one of these individuals to a company, it doesn't seem like we have really much going on there. Number 5, established, we're done with that. There's not much we can do, right? The 5 businesses are the startup started by Laura Larson, the business that received $5 million, right? So we now know that the business that received $5 million was Zetafish, right? Atriana, the startup that received $1 million, which is either one of these 2 companies, we don't know yet, and the company that received $4 million, all right, which could be any of these 3. However, if we know that one of these companies is the 1 million, then that could help. I mean, eventually it will help us make a determination on the others, because this GoPro, for example, can only be the 2 million or the 4 million, right? So once we pin down one of these companies, everything else is going to fall into place, right? So let's see, where am I at? Laura Larson. No, I already did that. Zetafish is either the business started by Betty Becker or the startup that received 1 million. And so that clue, I think we're done with. Right. Okay. So then it looks like the clues that are going to be the most useful would be 2, 4, and 6, which I don't think is anything earth-shattering, because it's like, well, those are the most involved ones, right? So let's see. Pick one. The business started by Vicky Velez received 3 million more than the business started by Papadilla. So, process of elimination. Vicky Velez, let's say this individual, let's say Vicky Velez earned the 5 million. That would force Pat Padilla to be at 2 million. Right? If Vicky Velez earned 4 million, that would force Pat Padilla to be at 1 million. Right? But Vicky Velez cannot earn 3 million or less, because then that would put something outside of the, we call it the domain, but the list of possible outcomes for Pat Padilla, right? Because if Vicky Velez earned $3 million, then Pat Padilla would have earned nothing, which isn't an option. If Vicky Velez earned $2 million, then Pat Padilla would have earned negative 1 million, which isn't an option. So now we, getting closer and closer, right? So now Vicky Velez is either the 4 million or the 5 million, right? So this number 6 here is going to be probably the clue to the whole thing. And you see, again, I'm talking it out. Not that you need to say everything out loud, but you kind of reason it out. You're like, all right, so now what if I do this? What do I do that? But you want to consider all the clues without getting into this hint stuff, right? So the 5 businesses again are the startup, right, by Laura Larson, the business that received 5 million. So the business that received 5 million could be any of these people: Becker, Padilla, Velez, or Waters. All right. Atriana. So again, it's implying that Atriana, Larson, the 5 million, the 1 million, and 4 million are all different companies. Right. So we knew that Larson wouldn't be any of these individuals, but if we can tie one of these investments to another company, then that would be the coup. All right. So let's see here. And you see why I selected easy, because even this is kind of dicey. All right. So Atriana. I don't know if I'm getting anywhere with that. So I'm looking at Betty Becker now. Startup started by Betty Becker received 1 million more than Proteca. All right. So this is possible. This is possible. Yeah. So, well, actually, I think we already addressed that. Okay. I mean, it is another thing that you could do is make a guess, but that's so dangerous, right? You sit here, you struggle through it, and then you find out that you just wasted your time because you've made a bad guess. But let's see. You could play the what if game. So like make the assumption, but don't click on anything. Just make the assumption that, for example, GoPro is the 2 million. Like what would that connect to? What would that imply? All right. But that I have found that when it comes to this sort of thing, the best way to handle it is to just keep looking through the clues until you find the thing that just jumps out at you. And sometimes it takes longer than others. But you saw how long it took me on that other one. I mean, some people, I'm sure there's somebody who's looking at this that's already finished, but right. So I feel like number 6 is the clue. The 5 businesses are the startup started by Laura Larson. Right. So this, and so just to continue thinking out loud, these are the 5 businesses. So every business is accounted for here. So one of these individuals is Betty Becker, another is Pat Padilla, Vicky Velez, and so on, right? So we know that the 4 million, the 5 million, and the 1 million are here, but that would mean that Laura Larson and Adriana would have to account for the other dollar amounts. So the 2 million and the 3 million, right? So we already knew that for Laura Larson, but let's take a look at Adriana. Oh, Adriana, we already accounted for. So that is of no help, right? Oh, actually, that's of perfect help. And I'm surprised I didn't see that before. All right. So we now know because Larson and Adriana have to be different. Larson is not the founder of Adriana. If Adriana is the 3 million, then Larson can't be, which means Larson has to be the 2 million. All right. So we have that piece of information. So then we continue looking to see if maybe that can help us clean things up a little bit. I go back to number 2. Startup started by Betty Becker is 1 million more than Proteca. So since the only possibilities for Betty Becker are 3 million and 5 million, then the only possibilities for Proteca would be 2 million and 4 million, which means that this cannot be Proteca. Proteca can't be the 1 million, which means Mad Inks is the 1 million. And so, sometimes it's that, I'm comfortable talking to myself, but sometimes it just takes that extra, what's going on? What am I missing? That sort of thing. All right. So we have GoPro. So these are opposing possibilities here. GoPro and Proteca are the 2 and the 4. All right. So any kind of reference to GoPro would be helpful, but I keep going back to that 5 business thing. So we know Laura Larson. We've accounted for Laura Larson is at 2 million. So we know Laura Larson is now the GoPro or the Proteca. All right. So it's because those are the only 2 possibilities for 2 million. And since we know Laura Larson is 2 million, that's all there is to it. So GoPro and the Proteca, which means Larson is not Mad Inks. All right. We also know that Mad Inks is the 1 million. So that's Pat Padilla, Will Waters. So Pat Padilla, Will Waters are the only possibilities for Mad Inks, which eliminates Vicky Velez. All right. I think we might have already counted for this, but I'll check it anyway. Zeta Fish is the 5 million. That could be Becker. It could be anybody but Larson. All right, Zeta Fish. Oh, Zeta Fish we already knew was Becker. I missed that one also. right, this will be enough to probably get us through this. So Betty Becker is Zeta Fish. Zeta Fish is the 5 million. Therefore, Betty Becker is the 5 million. All right. So that takes care of that. All right. So now the 3 million is either Pat Padilla or Will Waters. The 3 million corresponds with Adriana. So Pat Padilla, Will Waters, so not Vicky Velez. All right. Let's see. 2 million Laura Larson. I think I did that one. Yep. All right. So 3 million is either Pat Padilla. I did that. All right. The 5 million Zeta Fish. Okay, so that's good. All right. Getting there. All right. So now let's see. The business started by Vicky Velez received 3 million more than Pat Padilla. So Vicky Velez, oh, here it is. Vicky Velez has to be 4 million, which means Pat Padilla has to be 1 million, which means Will Waters has to be 3 million. Will Waters is the 3 million corresponding with Adriana. Laura Larson, we don't know that one yet. Vicky Velez is either GoPro or Proteca. Well, Laura Larson is the 2 million and corresponding with either GoPro or Proteca, so that's fine. Pat Padilla is the 1 million corresponding with Mad Inks. And so now we just need one more clue and we'll have it. All right. So let's see, 3 million more than the startup by Pat Padilla. So that's this relationship. So Pat Padilla earned 1 million. Vicky Velez earned 4 million. All right. So that could be, well, that could be either of these two companies. They're both at 4 million. All right. Laura Larson, a 5 million investment. So that's Zeta Fish. Adriana, the company that received 4 million. One piece of information I'm missing. 5 isn't, so Laura Larson at 2 million, which is one of these two companies. All right, so we have the 2 million accounted for. We have the 3 million accounted for. 4 million could be one of these two. And so the 1 million is Mad Inks. 3 is Adriana. 5 is Zeta Fish. Then we have Laura Larson in the 4. So that doesn't seem like it's helping. Right? So close. A startup received by Betty Becker is one more than, okay, so that's it. It was right back here. The startup started by Betty Becker received 1 million more than Proteca. So Betty Becker was at 500, I'm sorry, 5 million. So that means Proteca is at 4 million. So that helps us there. Oh, I'm not done. I still got more. Don't tell me to submit. All right. So Vicky Velez is at 4 million, corresponding with Proteca. And so now we have the puzzle. All right. So take a screenshot of this. All right. Then submit. And then it tells you how long it took you. It took Took me forever. I'm right here and it's like the worst possible time. I'd love to say that I did it on purpose to show you that it's perfectly okay to take a really long time on it and it'll be perfectly all right. Except sometimes I come across a puzzle where I'm like, I need to look at this one over and over and over again until I really get it. I know it's also getting a little late, but that's what you get. And then you'll take a screenshot of this, and that goes in with your submission. All right. So that's the first part of the assignment. So you're like, oh, really? That's only the first part. The other parts are much more straightforward. You're going to create a truth table for this. Right. It's fairly lengthy, but it's got a PQ and R. So as long as you set up a PQ and R, just the way we did it in the notes, then you just build it incrementally. But yeah, we'll go over more complicated examples involving truth tables next class. Then the next two problems, or at least the next problem, number 2, you can do that using a truth table if you want. It's just basically proving. Oh, actually, sorry, I brain cramped myself. This one you're just writing in symbolic form. So this one you should be able to do right away also. But number 3 you're not ready for yet because we have not gone over the laws of logic just yet. Right. So that you'll have to save for next class. But you should be able to get started on this. Like I give you 2 weeks to do this stuff. But you can tell that depending on strengths and weaknesses that, that first part might take a little while. Right. So don't, like prepare for the worst and hope for the best. If you get it done in 5 minutes, wonderful. If it takes you a little while, then, you might want to budget that time. Right. So always 2 weeks. Assignments are always due 2 weeks after assigned. Right. So yeah. So let me stop the recording. And I'll get this